Well, how we doing? It's Monday. No, that's not Monday. Monday was Halloween. This is Tuesday. This is November 1st. November 1st. Man, it sounds even crazier. Because I remember when it turned October 1st, I was like, man, this month's gonna fly by. And it did. So, here we are, November 1st. And, I'm not gonna say it's gonna fly by, but it probably will, just because hell, it seemed like, the other day it was 4th of July, and now here it is almost, day after Halloween. A couple of weeks it'll be Thanksgiving. So, and then a couple weeks after that it'll be Christmas, and then a couple weeks after that, it'll be New Year's, and then it'll be 2 to 3 months stuck inside the house because it's going to be snowy or cold or miserable, and yeah. But the good side of that is, the pro side, or the however you want to look at it, is at least after New Year's, it's like what, about 90 days ish until springtime. So that's the only good thing. Now, today I've kind of piddled around the yard a little bit, done a little of this, a little of that. I got some bulbs, some tulip bulbs and some other plant things, stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I have a raised bed that I'm not using, and as much as I would like to use this one raised bed, I think I'm going to set it someplace in my yard where it's more flat-ish. Use some of that grass mat stuff, and layer it 2 or 3 times or 4 times nice and thick, because it's a cheap grass mat. It's not a high dollar good quality one. So I figured if I was at least double or triple or quadruple lap it, then put the box on top of that, fill it up with some of the dirt I have laying around that's not being used, and then I could take some of the flowers that I have, like my spring flowers and bulbs and things of that nature, and I can put it on one side and keep the other side kind of covered, and to the best of my ability, and then take off the covered part, say like mid-springish, something like that, and I can use the other side for planting all my potatoes. And I can have a half a bed of flowers, and the other side of the bed be nothing but potatoes. And as crazy as it sounds, it'll work. Because over here in my side piece, in my blueberries, in my container piece over here, when I was breaking down the boxes this past spring, some of the stuff we had up here, where I had my side garden up here by the driveway. We had removed some of the potato plants and put them over here, and man, they thrived like crazy. I haven't dug any of them out, so I mean, there's probably some potatoes in there that we could dig out, but I figured I'll just leave them there and let them do its thing, and worst case scenario, they'll rot in the ground and make more potato plants. So it is what it is. I ain't too worried about it. But one of the side beds over here, actually 2 of them, to be honest with you, I am gonna, like where I had my concrete blocks in the long part and the side part, I'm pull all the dirt out of them, because I want to reuse those concrete blocks for a project that I have in my head, which I know anytime I get something in my head, it never turns out, or I quit it, or it never gets completed. But this time it's different, because that's gonna be the base of my foundation, and it's gonna be at least 2 blocks high. Of course, I'm gonna have to get me some sackcrete and make my foundation base. So then, before it all hardens up, I can take my blocks and lay them inside the sackcrete on the top part. So that way they'll cure and adheres to the sackcrete on the ground. And yeah. I used to work concrete a long time ago. I don't know if I ever told y'all or not. I used to smooth concrete. I used to trowel. I used to 2x4. I poured concrete basements. We did it year-round. In the wintertime, we used antifreeze mixed with the concrete so it wouldn't, that we'd get no major air bubbles and they wouldn't pop and crack and burst and everything else. But I did a lot of concrete work when I wasn't driving over the road. And because there were times I get this wild hair at my ass, I'm just like, you know what, I'm tired of driving over the road. I'm gonna come home, I'm gonna get a 9-to-5 job, and I would do that every so often, not very often, but every so often. And it was always some kind of construction, farm work, something of that nature. But yeah, I've done a lot of different jobs. Mastered none of them. The only thing I really mastered is how to be a screw up, and but I think anybody can do that, truthfully. Now, early this afternoon, I was on Amazon. I was looking up some things on there, and I found some things I'm going to use for next year, and probably retire some of the bottles that I had been getting and go to like a next size up kind of thing, and just keep the smaller bottles. And if I do keep the smaller bottles, I'm going to price it a lower price, and just so that way I'll have the same amount, I'll have the same arrangement, but since it's a lesser amount, it'll be a cheaper price. And that way I can keep my overhead still about the same. You know, yeah, it won't be so bad. And I've already started looking at restocking all my flour that I use, like my self-rising flour, my my pumpernickel flour, my rye flour. There's a couple others I have, like cake flour, stuff like that. I'm trying to get as much of it as I can now, mainly because, well, I mean, with this grand inflation that's going on, and now they're talking about more shortages and cutbacks, and the the Mississippi River drying up in certain spots, and products aren't coming in, products aren't going out. Basically it's a giant clusterfuck on the Mississippi. That is going to take effect with us. So I'm going to stock up while I can with what I can, and even if I don't use it for months, you know, it's fine, because I'll have it in a sealed container, and no weevils or bugs are going to get into it, and you know, I'll have it for next year when I decide to do my baking for the market. And I've also found I don't want to say a side hustle, but it's kind of like that. It's a side job that I'm going to be able to do that won't require me to do the market as much. Basically it's somebody I've known for some years. She works for a friend of theirs, and they do kind of like a consignment kind of thing, and so yeah, they charge 10%, so as a finder's fee kind of thing, which man, you gotta be ballsy. I mean, ballsy. There's a guy riding a little bitty moped down the roadway, barely doing 35 on the main road. There's no way in hell you'd catch me on that main road out there doing 35 on a moped. There ain't no way in hell. And the part that kills me is he has a full-size Chevy Suburban back here, not Suburban, but Silverado. He could be driving that, but instead he's riding that little bitty ass moped. It's crazy. Sounds like a souped up weed eater going down the road. I can still hear him. He's like just going down the road. That was our joke a long time ago, is whenever you see people in town riding mopeds, our joke of it was, is, you know, there's Mr. DUI, because a lot of the people that bought mopeds from a friend of mine, because he has a detail business and he works on, you know, quads and stuff like that, and he buys worn out, ragged out little scooters and mopeds, and he'll fix them up and resell them. And majority of the people that buy from him has lost their license due to a DUI. So that's like the joke, every time you see somebody in a moped, well, you know, there's Mr. DUI. So, and I know I shouldn't judge anybody because of what actions they did, but in this day and age, with the technology that we have, if you get a DUI, you kind of deserve it. Just the way I look at it. You know, everybody has a cell phone. There's always ways to communicate. You know, everything else. You know, you might not want to pay a taxi cab fee for driving your ass home, but you know, I would much rather pay a taxi cab to drive my ass home than have to be on super skyrocket insurance for the next some odd years and pay $1,000 court costs because of a DUI, and then have a suspended license for X amount of months. Yeah, screw that. I'd pay $35-40 to have somebody drive my ass home. It ain't worth it. Of course, I don't drink anyway, so it really don't matter. But this week is going to be up in the 60s and 70s. This weekend's going to be close to 80, and that's going to allow me to, I call it piddle dick, around the yard, doing all kinds of little things here and there, and you know, getting things set up, getting things winterized, and my side garden piece over here at one time, what about the side of my driveway is, I really don't know what I'm going to do with it. Me and Junior talked about maybe putting a carport there, and like not a carport, but something like a carport. So, you know, during, say, like the 4th of July or cookouts, we can have something to sit under. Of course, you know, at the same time, you know, that way we don't have to move the cars out. The main carport, we can just use that for the car things and have this here for this. I thought about putting a smokehouse there in place of that, making a great big ass one. I thought about just leaving it blank and throwing some rock in there, and then having, that way somebody could pull up and park right there. I mean, there's all kinds of things I thought about using it for, but honestly and truthfully, what it's probably going to be used for is I might get some train ties and just square off around the sides and the face of it, and dump a bunch of gravel in there and use it for an extra place for parking. Say like if somebody comes over, you could pull up inside there, there you go. Or because it's wide enough, I can put my trailer on one side and somebody could park on the other, and you know, because then the trailer will be out of the yard, out of the way, because every time I move the trailer around the yard, it seems like I can be putting it somewhere else. So I can just put the trailer there, have another space for somebody to park there, and there we go. We got an overflow for parking. And then whenever I want to use the trailer, I just back up to it, connect to it, load the crap I need to load onto it, shag ass and go, and boom, there we go. So truthfully and honestly, this side piece is probably going to be used for parking. But we might build a redneck kind of pavilion kind of thing and still use it for something else in the summertime, or how there's no telling. I don't know. But it's not going to be used for gardening anymore, I can tell you right now. Because I found other things online that I'm still doing research on for, like raised beds and container forms and stuff like that. So yeah, this side piece no longer garden space, so it is what it is. But there's so many things I'm working on now, trying to get ready for spring to maximize my yield for the area that I have, for the yard size I have, for everything that I'm working on, from between the pool and trying to get a lot of these weeds and stuff around here cleared out in certain areas. I got a dead tree by the driveway. It needs to come down. The problem of it is it's not on my property, but it's close enough to my property. If it does fall, it's gonna cause me a problem. So I'm thinking about contacting a buddy of mine, just having him drop it, kind of going towards the empty lot, and doing it that way. So of course he told me if he drops it, he can drop it in between my apple tree and the other tree and never touch the apple tree. So, and if he can, that's great, and if he can't, then I'll just have to get like a big ass lead line and have it tied up around the base of it and have it pulled, so that way when he cuts it, I can have it pull in the direction I want it to come and miss me in the process and have it come down that way. And of course then I get to cut it up for firewood, which is a good thing. But yeah, I mean, I got so many things I'm working on in my mind, and plus I'm working on a piece of paper, writing stuff down, diagramming things, just trying to get as much as I can ready for next year, for us, for friends, and for the market. So, but other than that, it hasn't been really that bad. My tomato plants I have out here on the side yard, I got green tomatoes on them that big around. They're cranking tomatoes out. Even though it's been cold, we've already had a couple frost freezes and a killing freeze. My tomato plant has lived through it, and it's cranking out tomatoes like crazy. So I'm not going to complain, And this is why in August, when a lot of people in my area, for whatever stupid reason, they'll pull their tomato plants up out of the ground and throw them in the trash or throw them in the compost pile, and I leave mine in the ground until either they shrivel up and turn brown, then I'll take them up. But if they're still functioning and they're still producing tomatoes, shit, man, I let them go. Keep on cranking them out as long as you can. Because it's the gift that keeps on giving. Now, before I get off here, most of you are watching me. You've already subscribed to me and everything else. No big deal. I'm not going to sit here and be like a lot of the people I see on YouTube that, like, before the video even starts, be sure and hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up, click the bell, do this, do that. Because in some ways a friend of mine told me, he goes, you need to do that. But honestly and truthfully, if I have to beg for you to hit subscribe or click the bell or give me a thumbs up, I don't need you. I mean, it's not that I don't need you. To me, it's like I'm begging for you to do something for me, and it's just not me, I know people say, well, you need to put a video out every day. I can't do that either. Because, as you well know, there's times, hell, it'll be a week will go by and you won't see nothing from me. And the reason for that is the content for what I want to do isn't there to be there daily. And I don't want to talk about politics, I don't want to talk about sports, and I don't want to talk about religion. So without those three things there, the only thing you have left is homesteading, farming, animals, a few gun topics, which in some ways could fall under politics. Now, deer hunting, rabbit hunting, squirrel hunting, fishing, trapping, root digging, that to me is not a sport. That's an activity you do to keep yourself occupied. Now, I've had people argue with me that deer hunting's a sport, fishing's a sport, a bunch of other shit, and I told them if I am to go hunting, it's not a sport. It's because I'm hungry, or I'm going to be hungry, and I want to put some meat in the freezer or fridge for me to eat when I get hungry. It's not a sport. Fishing the same way. When I go fishing, is because I want to relax. I love being around the water. You know, fishing to me, I'm out there fishing, it's not a sport. It's because I hope to get a big enough fish so I can fillet his ass and put his ass in the freezer or refrigerator. So when I'm hungry, or I want to have a cookout and have a fish fry or whatever, I can use him along with some frog legs and some other stuff and have like a cookout or a fish fry or just dinner for me in general. To me, those are not sports. That's a leisurely activity. Now, some people are like, well, it's a sport because you got to do this and you got to do that, and you know, you get your blind and go sit up in the thing. You got to sit there and wait, and it's like a luck of draw. No, I don't see it as a sport. I'm sorry. I see it as, if you're hungry, you're gonna have something to eat. But you know, that's neither here nor there. Now, there is one thing I've been acquiring, I've been asking online, because I got some family that's down south. When I say down south, I'm talking like Alabama south, Mississippi, Florida, Georgia. I got some real good close friends down in Texas. I put the feelers out, I guess you could call it, and I'm looking for a cane mill. And if you don't know what a cane mill is basically, it's like a squared or rounded container vessel that has an opening about yay big in it, and you take your sugar cane or you take your sorghum cane or what you're going to use, and you stick it inside there, and you have a horse that goes around this circle thing, like a feeder, not a feeder, a gear drive, I guess you would call it, and then it goes in these grinders and it crushes everything up, and all the juices come out, and it collects in a different system area, and then you cook it down to make your syrup or your molasses, or you know, whatever you want to do with it. And because a few years ago I grew a shit ton of sorghum, and now my sorghum got probably about the thickness of my thumb, and it was about 7.5 to 8.5 foot tall, and it looked like bamboo. It was so thick and everything else. And what I did is towards the end of the season I cut it in about a foot, maybe a foot and a half increments, and I tied them up, stuck them in a plastic bag to let them dry real good, and then in the winter time I fed that to my goats for like a sweet treat, and you know, just to give them something, you know, even though it's dried, to give them something to chew on. And of course it lasts for a long time, and yeah, they loved it. Now, did I make them diabetic? Possible, but they sure loved it. But I want to get a cane mill so where I can grow some more cane. I can grind it up here at the house, and because I want to make my own syrup. Even though I ain't supposed to have it, I just want to make it just because it's like a lost art, you know. Yeah, anybody can go to the grocery store and buy this artificial syrup on the counter, or you can buy the real stuff in a small bottle, and you're going to pay like out your ass for it. Yeah, it would cost me to make a setup, but you know, if I could get a good cane mill that's not in too bad a shape, get it working pretty decent, you know, I'd be tickled pink. And I've already got a component that I've been wanting for a long time. I haven't used it yet. It's still sitting out here on the side. I gotta wait till the time's right, the atmosphere's right, the barometer's right, the temperature's right, and everything else before I do anything with that. So, but yeah, I mean, so many things I gotta do. And then sometime this week as well, which I probably should make a video of me doing it, but there's so many other videos of it out there on YouTube. It'd just be one more thing as I would refer to as boredom, because there's so many other videos you can watch it on. But I'm gonna take a lot of my apples and I'm gonna cut them in a certain form so I can basically make canned apple pie filling. And the reason I want to do that is because if I make fried pies this anytime next year, instead of having to buy the stuff and everything to do it, I have it homemade, sitting on the shelf, ready to go, and you know, everything will be great. And then if I want to make an apple pie, there it is. If I want to make an apple crisp, there it is. If I want to shoot my diabetic sugars through the damn roof, I open a jar, put the spoon or a fork, and I'll just eat it out of the jar. But you know, there's a lot of things that I'm going to be doing here soon that I have stuff left over that I need to process and use properly and not let it go to waste. Now, when Montez was here this past weekend, I think it was Saturday, he came by, and I had a 1 gallon mason jar, and I'm making homemade apple cider with it. And right now, the stage that it's in right now is basically, it's the alcohol stage. And once it's past that, then it starts to turn to the vinegar stage. And of course, I'm making it with the mother and stuff like that. So that way I'll have fresh apple cider vinegar on hand, and not this store-bought crap that's technically, I mean, it's apple cider vinegar, but it's not exactly apple cider vinegar. It's been filtered and processed even more so. And I priced a bottle, I don't know, about that tall, yay big around, of apple cider with the mother in it, and it was $15 for like a liter bottle. And I was like, screw this, I'll make it myself. So I'm making it myself. And that's a lot of things that has taken place that separates me from a lot of people, even on YouTube, is instead of just going buying the stuff, I'll just make it, you know. I mean, yeah, it might take you a while to get what you want, but once you make it yourself and the process is there and everything's working for you, you know, I know it's going to be in my apple cider with the mother. Now, what you get in the store is going to have nitrates and all kinds of other crap added to it, and yeah, mine's not going to have nitrates. It's going to be a raw, hard cider with mother, and that's what it's going to be. But I think I need to shut up, because if I don't shut up, I'm going to keep talking. It's going to be a 40+ minute video, and a lot of y'all would be like, I ain't watching no 40 minutes, this jackass. I'm just going to speed through it to certain pieces, and you know, there it is. So it is what it is. But I'll keep y'all updated between now and this coming weekend, because Friday, more than likely Friday, I'm going to go in the woods and we're going to retrieve some sassafras root. And like I said, I got to get some for me for tea this coming winter. And then I found a recipe that Dan was talking about with his grandmother making sassafras hard candy. I found a recipe for that, so I'm gonna make some sassafras candy, plus I'm gonna make me some tea. And then there's a friend of mine that lives down in Brownsville, Texas, and Yeah, there is no sassafras trees in that part of Texas. And so I'm gonna dig me some root and have it stored up really good so I can ship it off to him. So that way I can explain to him the process for him, step by step kind of thing. And that way he can make himself some sarsaparilla tea. And then I can keep sending him some stuff off and on when I find it, and it's not too hard to dig out of the ground. And he'll be happy, I'll be happy. So y'all have a great day. I'm gonna turn this little puppy off, and I have no idea what I'm gonna do. But anyway, see ya.